I had always believed family meant protection, unity, trust. But nothing prepared me for the betrayal that would tear through my heart like a jagged blade. My sister, my own flesh and blood, didn't just stab me in the back. She smiled while doing it. And my parents? They watched and said it's God's plan. Well, I had a plan too. And mine didn't involve forgiveness. This is the story of how I lost everything, only to find a part of me I never knew existed. I'm Anita, the firstborn of the Olanrawaju family. I wasn't born into luxury, but I was raised with love, or at least I thought so. From an early age, I worked hard, not just in school but at home, helping my parents run their small kiosk in Ibadan. My younger sister, Miriam, was my shadow growing up. Always behind me. Always watching. Always copying. And I let her. She was prettier than me. More charming. But I was the responsible one, the one they depended on when bills piled up, when daddy fell ill, or when mummy's back gave out from standing too long at the shop. I postponed my own dreams just to make sure Miriam could chase hers. So, when I met Fizeo during my NYSC in Abeokuta, it felt like fate giving me back something for all I'd sacrificed. He was everything I never imagined I deserved: gentle, ambitious, respectful. Within months, we were inseparable. My parents adored him. Even Miriam liked him, or so I thought. By the time I completed my service, Fizeo and I were planning our introduction ceremony. My heart was full. My future looked bright. But the darkness was already creeping in. It began with small things: Miriam constantly calling Fizeo for advice on her fashion business, asking him to take her to Lagos to get materials, and suddenly dressing more extravagantly around him. I noticed the shift, but I told myself, "You're just being insecure. She's your sister. She wouldn't dare." I didn't want to believe it. Until the night I overheard them. I had gone to our family house unannounced after a long week at the hospital where I worked as a nurse. I just wanted some of Mummy's egusi soup and some rest. As I stepped into the compound, I saw Fizeo's car parked outside. Odd. He hadn't mentioned visiting. I entered quietly, thinking I would surprise everyone. But it was me who was shocked. In the living room, there they sat, Miriam in her lacy top, leaning into Fizeo, giggling like a schoolgirl. His hand rested casually on her thigh, and she didn't flinch. My mother stood in the doorway, smiling as though she'd just watched a wedding proposal. I didn't make a sound. I turned and walked away like a ghost in my own family. That night, I didn't sleep. The next day, I confronted Fizeo. He didn't deny it. He said, without blinking, "Miriam understands me in ways you never could." And when I asked him why he strung me along for so long, his answer felt like acid on my skin. I was waiting to see who I truly connected with. And it wasn't you. Miriam never apologized. She didn't even avoid me. She stood tall in our living room and declared, "God has revealed the truth. Fizeo was meant for me. You were just a phase in his journey." And my parents? They didn't rage. They didn't scold her. My mother said, "Sometimes God redirects blessings to where they truly belong." My father added, "Be strong, Anita. This is God's plan." God's plan? No. This was betrayal. Cold. Calculated. Cruel. I moved out of the family house that same week. Rented a tiny single room in a rundown part of town. I stopped answering calls. I didn't attend their introduction. I wasn't invited anyway. I drowned myself in work, night shifts, double shifts, anything to numb the ache. But the pain didn't go away. Then came the final straw. 6 months later, Mummy called. Not to check on me. Not to ask if I had eaten. She called to say I was being selfish for not attending Miriam's wedding. "Can't you be happy for your sister?" she asked. That night, as I stared at the cracked ceiling above me, a new kind of clarity took hold. They had their plan. It was time I showed them mine. You see, I didn't want revenge at first. But when your pain is silenced and mocked long enough, it begins to morph. It begins to whisper to you in the dark, what if you didn't just suffer quietly? What if you made them see? I wasn't going to fight like they did, with lies and manipulation. No. I was going to build something so big, so unshakable, so blinding in its success that they'd choke on every word they spoke against me. I was going to rise, not to win them back, but to leave them gasping in the dust. And maybe, just maybe, I'd show them that sometimes, when you betray the wrong person, you don't get punished with fire. You get punished by being forgotten. But first, I had to become unforgettable. For the first time in my life, I became selfish. No more sacrificing for others. No more family first. I used every waking hour to invest in myself. I left the public hospital job that drained me emotionally and joined a private clinic with better pay. Nights when I wasn't on shift, I was learning, taking online courses in business administration and health entrepreneurship. I was silent, but I was watching. Listening. Building. 3 months after Miriam's wedding, I registered a business, Anita Wellness Hub. A health consultancy brand for women, especially pregnant women and new mothers. I'd seen how neglected they were in our healthcare system. No one was guiding them through depression, nutrition, recovery. And I knew I could do it, because I had done it, every day, as a nurse. I used the money I'd saved for my wedding, every kobo, to rent a small shop space, hire a branding consultant, and buy second-hand equipment. While Miriam was busy flaunting her wedding pictures on Instagram, I was laying the foundation for something that would one day overshadow everything she and Fiancé thought they had built. I kept my moves private. Silent. Strategic. A year passed. Anita Wellness Hub went from a whisper to a conversation to a name. Women came. Then they brought their sisters. Then their mothers. Then came the sponsorship from a local NGO. Then the call from TVC for a health interview segment. The day my interview aired on national television, my phone didn't stop ringing. My inbox overflowed with messages from women thanking me. Crying. Sharing how the information I gave had saved their pregnancies, even their marriages. That night, as I sat alone in my one-bedroom apartment with the dim bulb flickering, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just smiled. For the first time in a long while, I felt like me again. Then the unexpected happened. A message from Miriam. "Hi sis. We saw your TV interview. Wow. You're doing really well. I'm proud of you. We should talk." Talk? A week later, I got a call from my father. His voice was slower, humble. "Anita, your mother and I want to see you. Can you come home?" Home? I hadn't stepped into that house since the day I walked out. I wasn't sure if I was ready. I wasn't even sure I wanted to be ready. But curiosity? That was a stubborn thing. I arrived on a Saturday afternoon. The house was quieter. Older. Smaller than I remembered. Miriam was there. So was Fiancé. But something in their faces had changed. They looked tired. Worn. And then I saw it. Miriam was heavily pregnant. My mother tried to smile, but her eyes didn't carry the joy they once did. They didn't speak of betrayal. They didn't speak of God's plan. Instead, my father cleared his throat and said, "Miriam is struggling. Emotionally. Fiancé lost his job. The pregnancy has been complicated. We were wondering if you could help." I looked at Miriam. Her eyes were no longer proud. They were drowning. I didn't answer immediately. Because deep inside, something twisted. A part of me wanted to say no. But another part, the part that had grown in silence, in pain, in purpose, knew that I had already won. My victory wasn't in rejecting them. It was in becoming someone they could never destroy again. I didn't answer them that day. Instead, I stood quietly and watched the same people who once called my pain God's plan now beg for my help like I was their only salvation. I left them in that silence, not out of cruelty, but to protect what I had spent years rebuilding inside me. Miriam messaged again the next morning. Anita, please. I don't know what I was thinking back then. I didn't realize what I took from you until life started taking from me. You were always the strong one. I need you now. I stared at that message for a long time. People always apologize when life humbles them, but very few are truly sorry. They just want comfort from the same person they once buried. Still, I wasn't the same Anita. Revenge no longer looked like fire and screaming and bitterness. It looked like peace. Control. Boundaries. So I replied. I'll send over a list of resources and a contact at the hospital who specializes in high-risk pregnancies. Take care. No bitterness. No anger. Just distance. That same week, I was invited to speak at a women's conference in Abuja. They wanted me to talk about turning pain into purpose. I laughed when I saw the theme, When Family Hurts. God has a way of flipping the script. At the conference, I stood in front of over 200 women, some doctors, some midwives, some just survivors like me. And for the first time, I told my story publicly. I spoke about betrayal. About grief. About rebuilding when everyone expects you to fall apart. And when I finished, the applause was thunderous, not just because I had survived, but because I had transformed. After the event, a young woman approached me. Ma, she said, her voice trembling, my sister stole my husband too. And my mother told me to forgive and be happy for her. I thought I was going mad. But your story, it made me feel like I'm not crazy. I'm just surrounded by people who don't want me to heal. I hugged her tightly. In that moment, I realized my story wasn't just mine. It was ours, a shared grief among women who were always told to endure betrayal quietly. That night, I sat in my hotel room and wrote down a phrase I would never forget. Sometimes, the best revenge is healing so loudly the ones who broke you can't even hear their own excuses anymore. 2 months later, I heard that Miriam gave birth. A baby girl. I didn't go. But I sent a card. Inside, I wrote, "May your daughter grow up in truth, love, and respect, the very things we lacked. May you teach her better than you were taught. And may you one day understand the pain you caused not through punishment, but through the responsibility of raising someone you never want to hurt." I don't know if she cried when she read it. I didn't send it for tears. I sent it because healing had finally closed the wound. 3 years had passed since the betrayal. 3 years since I had heard the words, "It's God's plan," used as a weapon against me. Now, I was standing on the TEDx stage in Lagos, red circle under my feet, camera lights above me, and hundreds of faces watching as I told my truth, not as a victim, but as a survivor who had designed her own comeback. My talk was titled, "Forgiveness Without Reconciliation." And this was how I began. Some wounds don't need bandages, they need distance. Some apologies don't come with words, they come as silence when you rise. And sometimes, the most divine plan is the one you write for yourself. The applause was thunderous. But more than the claps, I saw eyes filled with recognition, women, men, even elders, nodding at a story they had lived too. My success wasn't built to spite them anymore. It was built because I finally loved myself enough to stop shrinking for people who only saw me as a stepping stone. Not long after that, I ran into Fiancé at a pharmacy. He looked older. Weaker. His eyes no longer carried the pride that once broke me. He smiled nervously and said, "Anita, I've been following your journey. You're doing amazing things." I just nodded. Then he added something that nearly made me laugh. "Sometimes I wonder what life would have been like if I had chosen right." I didn't respond. He had made his choice. And I had made mine. As I turned to leave, he said, "I'm sorry." This time, I believed he meant it. But I also knew it didn't matter anymore. Miriam? She still sends pictures of her daughter from time to time. Little Mariella. She's beautiful, innocent. A symbol of what was born out of betrayal, yet untouched by it. I send gifts on birthdays. Quiet gestures. No phone calls. No reunions. Just boundaries. My parents? They've started showing up at my seminars. Sitting quietly in the back. Watching. Learning. Sometimes my mother cries. Sometimes my father claps too long. They never apologized. Not in words. But actions speak louder. They now tell people I'm their firstborn. With pride. And that, somehow, is enough. Life doesn't always give you justice through punishment. Sometimes it gives you clarity. Betrayal doesn't always come with fangs, it can wear the face of family, dressed in tradition, dripping in fake holiness. But no matter who tries to dim your light, remember. Your destiny is not a democracy. It doesn't need anyone's vote. If your pain was handed to you unfairly, hand yourself back something greater, growth. You don't need to destroy the people who broke you. Just become someone they can no longer reach. Because healing? That's a story worth telling. And mine has just begun.